The Libra Full Moon is on April 12th, 2025 at 8:22 p.m. And it asks you, where are wounds around who you are, around yourself, around how you view yourself, keep you in karmic patterns in relationships that don't feel balanced? Whether that wound is around you've never had a boyfriend and you'd really like a boyfriend and you think there's something wrong with you, or that wound is around people misunderstand me, they don't get me, why don't people see me? Or maybe it's a wound around I give so much. I give so much and still no one sees me. Why does no one see me? Maybe you're not doing much because you're exhausted and you just want someone to notice you and have compassion for you. There's some sort of wound you have around self, and it wants to and this full moon is shining a light. It's shining a light on where your emotional inner world, your emotional landscape is keeping you stuck in these certain patterns in relationship that just don't feel empowering to you. Because there's a karmic message that's wanting to come through at this full moon, and it's beautifully described by the Sabian symbol based on the degree that this moon in Libra is at. So the moon in Libra is at 23 degrees, so we round up to 24 Libra, and that is a butterfly with a third wing on its left side. So to me, this full moon is, yes, it's about transformation, but it's about transformation that might feel awkward for you. Because anytime we end a lifelong pattern and we're owning our uniqueness as our greatest superpower, it can feel awkward. Most of us been taught that who we are uniquely are is wrong, is bad. That is why we are stuck in karmic patterns for a reason. We stuff down the things we were told were wrong or bad. We stuff down the ways in which we felt different, and we are taught not to value the things that we once valued as kids. It's too weird, it's too different, it's too much, you're too much, like whatever it is. And that's what a butterfly with a third wing on its left side is. It looks awkward, but it also has extra capabilities that a butterfly with two wings does not have. So this degree suggests a period where you, or collective energy, this is a collective awkward transformation awakening of owning what's unique and special for you. We're undergoing an unusual growth, possibly feeling awkward, different, or ahead of your time. This symbol, aka this full moon, is about developing new abilities that may not yet fully integrate into the existing structure of your life. There's a theme of pioneering change. Embrace what makes you different and finding balance within imbalance. This full moon challenges you to evolve, even if that means stepping outside of conventional norms. Oftentimes, we have that wound around self. Again, like I said, not because there's anything wrong with you, but because usually this is how it works. You're born into a family that is designed to teach you lessons, that is designed to take you away from yourself in some way, whether it's your family or the circumstances you grow up with. There is a specific design to it. It's spelled out in your birth chart. It's literally the lessons in your birth chart. And so inherently, every single person is taken away from who they uniquely are and on some level told to not value it. And this full moon is a reclamation of that value. It's a reclamation of, oh, this thing I always thought was wrong with me. How can I own it as my greatest freaking superpower? I'll give you an example. This past eclipse, I talked about in a previous episode, was strongly impacting my Lilith and Pisces. And so I have undergone really deep transformation when it comes to my Lilith. And so let me tell you about it because I think it will help tie in how this full moon can show up for you. My deepest wound, my Pisces Lilith wound, was around being too sensitive. Like anytime I would express emotion when I was younger, it was too wild, it was too untamed, I'm too sensitive, I'm mean. That's what I was told. Because my emotion was always so big. I wasn't trying to be mean. I was just trying to get my needs met and ask a question, and I would be told, "You're too much." Like, I remember I would yell at my brother, and the response would always be, "Rachel, stop whining." And I felt helpless in those moments, and so what I learned to do was, "Rachel, you're too sensitive. Your needs are too sensitive. Your emotions are too wild. Your emotions are too big. Your emotions are dangerous. People can't handle them, and they don't like it." And so what ended up happening was I became very logical. I started controlling everything that I said. I wouldn't dare let people know how sensitive I was, how often my feelings were getting hurt, and I just wasn't saying anything. I just started stuffing every time someone hurt my feelings, every time someone asserted power over me, because at that point I didn't feel like if the way I expressed would get me anywhere. I didn't feel like I felt like my power was taken away because I'm too wild and feminine and chaotic when I speak for my power. So I just have to submit to other people's power. You know, when I'm playing soccer and a girl yells at me to pass the ball, I pass the freaking ball because I don't want her to yell at me even anymore because I can't protect myself. Because if I let it out, it's too wild, too untamed. Well, over time, it made me feel really disconnected from myself. It made me feel tight in my chest around every single person I talked to because I couldn't be the full me. I had to monitor, and I stepped it down and down. And so as I've been healing my Lilith and Pisces, I've been focusing on making myself feel at home, and that's come with two different things. One, which I've talked about on the podcast, I'm talking a lot less and only talking when I'm inspired and not being afraid of awkward silences, and it's been life-changing for me. But number two, I've also been speaking up and allowing my wild emotion to come out. That one's been equally as scary. Because I know that, like, so the thing with your Lilith is it gives intuitive messages, and people will either reject you for it or they'll accept you for it, depending on how much you've healed the Lilith. In different aspects of Lilith, there's layers to her. And so I first practiced letting my wild feminine out in the beginning of the year with a friend. I spoke a truth to her that I could not contain in my body anymore around our friendship and how values that I had that felt like they were crossed. And I'm a Taurus. My Pluto's in the second house, connected to my sun. So my values are everything to me. And I have boundaries in my life around my values because they are the things that structure and form my life. And so I felt as though a friend had crossed those values or was not living in alignment with those values. And I stuffed it down for several months until I finally exploded. Like my Lilith, that's what happens sometimes with Lilith. It just came out. It was so messy. It was not good the way it came out. I did get my truth out to her, and I set the intention before that. My intention is that this brings us closer. My intention is that this helps you as much as it helps our relationship and me, right? Because it's also healing to me to speak my truth and things that I see. And we didn't talk for a full month. And eventually she came back at the end of the month and reinstated my intention. She said, "Your intention was for us to resolve this. Do you still want to resolve it?" I said, "Yes." And so then we could talk from a much more grounded place after I got my Lilith wild, tamed rage out. And another month later, she gets a book that completely coincides with what I was sharing with her, and she has like a giant breakthrough. She has a giant breakthrough, but I also am having a giant breakthrough. And my giant breakthrough was that, wow, there are messages when I feel strongly about something. There is intuition and there's wisdom in what I feel strongly about. And I've been stuffing that emotion that I have, that is my strongest connection to my intuition, down my whole life because I was told I'm too sensitive, too emotional. And the fact that I could let that emotion out and then my friend could hold it and then meet me 2 months later, and not just meet me, but like meet me from a much higher perspective, like meet me in my values, remend the friendship, be able to come back into relationship. In that moment, it actually did something very healing for me. And what was healing about it was that my emotions are not too much for the right people. In fact, the more I own my emotions and how things feel and allow that truth to come out, and then stay open and compassionate and am willing to come back into harmony with the other person by me taking any responsibility I need to for where I maybe maybe where my truth was not exactly perfect, because I always say truth is perfectly imperfect and it comes out in layers. Usually the first layer of truth is imperfect because there's a deeper layer of truth, and that's usually a much more vulnerable truth, one that you can take responsibility for. So for example, in this argument I had with my friend, I realized the reason it came out really messy in the beginning when we reconfigured a month later was that wasn't just that my values were crossed, it's that I have these values because like my value is I would never betray another person, right? For example, so if I see someone else who's close to me betraying someone else, that crosses my value, and then I don't want them to betray me too. That's why, because I have values of never betraying anyone, and so if you're in my life, I want you to be in integrity with that too. Be in integrity with unconditional love. And so I could also recognize where I could take responsibility, where that well of emotion came from. It came from a place of having both wanting to align with my values in the relationship, but also not wanting to be betrayed and wanting to protect the shit out of myself. And so when we could reconfigure a month later, when I dug deeper, I was able to apologize with the way I initially expressed this and take responsibility for why it came out so emotional. And then that brought us closer together. And so since then, I've been practicing speaking my emotional truth. And some people don't get it. But the cool thing is every time I allow myself to just be wild and messy and emote, I'm actually attracting a lot more people who get it than who don't. It's almost like the more you own who you really are, the less you even notice all of these people that would reject you or misunderstand you, and the less they really matter, because because you're magnetizing the people who do. That's what magnetism is. It inherently is going to repel people and attract people. And we're moving into an age where we're building a new earth, where change makers are rising and are needed. And so it is more needed than ever for you to lean in on the things that make you different, the things that once wounded you, in order for you to reclaim that power so boldly that it brings in the people who are like, I see that power, I relate with that power, I'm hopping on your bandwagon. And the people who just mirror that old wound and try to reject you start to come into compassion for them. There's some sort of long-term karmic pattern that's wanting to come to an end at this full moon. Because Saturn in Pisces, which is conjunct Venus retrograde in Pisces, so this is reflecting on relationships, reflecting on your self-worth, reflecting on your values, which are pretty much conjunct the North Nodes. This is very karmic, like I'm saying. Pisces is also a karmic sign. It's the sign of karmic endings. They're creating a beautiful sextile to Uranus and Taurus. That's the breakthrough. That's the awakening and recognizing, oh my God, I just have to be present with myself. And the more I own what I value, the more I own my emotional truth and protect myself and make myself feel at home, the more I slow down enough to even see what feels right. And I stop just reacting from fear, but I actually sit with the fear and I process it and I allow it to bring me into peace and truth. The more I trust that there is incredible information in my emotions and how I'm feeling, and I take ownership for them, the more self-worth I can build. Because here's the thing, we only don't feel worthy, we only don't feel present, we only don't feel connected to what we value or connected to abundance and all those different things, like connected to what makes us feel rooted and present and secure and good, when we think we can't be ourselves, when we have to manage how we show up everywhere. You know, you walk into a room, you have social anxiety, but you don't want anyone to know it. And so you just act extra gregarious and social to everyone, but you're dying inside. That's an example of what I'm talking about. That's you bypassing your true value, your worth of just beingness. And so there's a breakthrough wanting to come through to you. You know, this could be, and this breakthrough is going to create stronger, more balanced, long-term relationships. This breakthrough is going to create a stronger foundation for you to build long-term wealth. It's going to come with a stronger foundation for you to just feel more connected to yourself, more embodied, more free. Because what happens when you don't have to control yourself anymore and you realize all the people who don't like you for your truth really don't belong in your life anyways? Is you become free and you realize how much love there was for the person that you always were, that now you're allowing yourself to be. Just like the story I just told. I know I have friends and people in my life who can hold my wild, feminine, untamed nature, and they don't just hold it. They crave it. They thrive it. They use it as a permission slip for themselves. This thing I once was so shameful of is now my greatest superpower. That's what's wanting to come through to you. Where do you shame yourself? Where do you shame your own truth? Because you can't let other people down. Because you made certain commitments to people that aren't in alignment with you anymore. Whatever bullshit story you tell yourself, you know? Like, there's all these rules and stories we make for ourselves. Like, oh, well, you know, I signed on to this company and I promised them these things and I promised I would deliver them all in 5 years and it's only been 2 years and I'm dying and I need to leave, but I promised and I love them and I don't want to let them down. And then all these other things could happen if I left. What happened if I left? What happened if I followed my truth? What happened if I was actually true to myself? What if they leave me? What if I lose love? What if now I'm not responsible? What if the whole world comes crashing down and I'm not in integrity now because I didn't stick with my 5-year contract that I had with these people? And now their whole business is going to come down because of me. And like, literally, if you're telling yourself a story and there's so much wordy information and you're coming up with all the excuses for why you can't follow your truth, there is something there for you. So ask yourself, where might you be doing that when it comes to this fear of how you'd be viewed in relationship? This fear of trusting yourself to honor yourself, maybe a little too much. Where is that fear and what is actually true for you? What do you actually want? What actually feels right in your soul? If you sign this 5-year contract, but really what you want to do is not work for the next 3 months and do all this creative projects, and it feels scary as fuck to admit that to yourself. That's what I mean by a butterfly with a third wing on its left side. This shit is a transformative energy. It's a little awkward because it's new. You've never done it before. You've never surrendered and trusted yourself this deeply. Maybe you have. Maybe this is just a deeper level of that surrender. It just depends on where you are at your journey. I've done a lot of deep surrendering, and I know this is just probably coming with even more deep surrendering for me because it's a constant evolution, and I'm here for it. But Mars in Cancer is in an exact trine to the North Node in Pisces at this full moon. And so it's showing me that there's always been this way you've gone about creating emotional safety. And it might be a little too superficial. It's not really true. Truth is deep. And often, a lot of people are disconnected from their truth because they've lived superficial lives for so long. And if that's been you, there's no shame in that at all. At all. Maybe this is the full moon that you recognize I've been living superficially just to keep myself feeling safe. I've been just, you know, I lose my job and then I immediately think I need to find another job that's going to make me a lot of money. But I hate doing these jobs. So you keep signing up for a job that you hate again and again and again. That's what I mean by a superficial way to make yourself feel safe. A new way is wanting to come through. One where you trust your passion. One where you trust the things that make you feel grounded and make you feel like you're truly listening to your emotions. If you're feeling exhausted, like you need to rest, maybe that's what you need to do. If you're feeling like you just want to study astrology, maybe that's what you need to do. If you're like, yeah, but I need to make money, where is that going to lead me? This is what I mean by this is a karmic surrender. And it's going to feel awkward. The butterfly with the third wing. This is important to share. Okay. I was going to record a whole separate podcast episode about this, but apparently it wants to be in this episode. So, Lilith, I just told you a little bit about Lilith, but Lilith is currently in Scorpio. Lilith is your wild, untamed, feminine energy. And when she's in Scorpio, she is your greatest power. But she's also connected, and want to know what your wild, untamed, feminine energy plus your greatest power equals what Lilith really is in Scorpio? She is the witch wound. She is the inner witch. And if you want to understand why people hunted down witches back in the day, like you could be living today and be like, I can't wrap my head around it. How could people burn people at the stake? You could be burning witches. Every single person on this planet burns people's witches. Everyone at one point. And I'm not saying this to shame you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm going to explain what I'm talking about. So the reason Scorpio is the sign of your inner witch, and the reason it's the sign of magic and transformation and alchemy and turning lead into gold, is because your strongest power to turn lead into gold is vulnerability and truth. Those two things. And people will go to their deathbed keeping a secret and never sharing the truth. Why is that? Because if they were to share that truth, it could cause so much chaos that they don't know what would happen. If they were to share that truth, it would cause so much alchemy in their life that they don't know what would happen. And that is exactly why witches got burned. Because people cannot handle truth. People cannot handle witches, or they tell themselves they can't handle it. You really can. It's just fucking scary. True deep transformation comes when you speak your truth, even if it feels like you're gonna die. True deep transformation comes from taking responsibility for truth, even when you get triggered. So if someone triggers you, it's actually triggering a Scorpio wound, Lilith and Scorpio. It's triggering your witch wound. Because when someone shares a truth with their truth with you and you get triggered by it and can't handle it, let's say you find out that let's say that you find out that let's say you're a jealous girlfriend and your boyfriend really wanted to hang out with his friends, but you never let him hang out with his friends. And so what he does instead is he does this sneaky thing to go hang out with his friends. Because if he were to tell you he'd go hang out with his friends, he would feel your wrath. That's what I mean by getting triggered. And then if you found out he went out with your friends and he never told you, you probably get double triggered. But that's because he was afraid of his truth, his inner witch being burned by you. And his truth could have triggered your inner witch. There's a reason why you don't want him to go out. Maybe you've been cheated on before. Maybe you have daddy issues. I don't know. Mommy issues, some sort of issues. I don't know. This is a random example. I doubt it's you. But that triggering is your inner witch wound. It's the thing that propels people to kill other people's witches. Because if you have jealousy, abandonment wounds, then if your boyfriend asks to go out with his friends and it triggers you, and then you try to control him or beat him up for it or be mean to him for it, that's you literally burning his inner witch. Do you see what I'm saying? Truth is the most alchemical, transformative, magical medicine on this planet, and most people won't choose it. And instead, they'll keep burning other people's witches. But the moment you choose it and share it vulnerably and self-reflect and take responsibility for your truth. So in this girlfriend example, her truth is really that she's jealous. Because the deeper truth is maybe she's afraid of being abandoned. Because the deeper truth is maybe her dad did abandon her when she was 10 years old. And that's the pattern she expects. And so the burning the witch version would be yelling at the boyfriend, controlling him. But the sinking back into truth version would be reflecting on, why do I feel this need to limit my partner's freedom? Why am I making my partner burn his own witch to make me feel safe? And if in that moment, that person can self-reflect and say, oh, it's because my dad left me and I'm afraid of being abandoned, so I try to control him, but then I know the very act of me trying to control him just manifests the very thing, and that's what's keeping me stuck in this pattern. So if instead she can say to her boyfriend, hey, I want you to be in your truth, and I'm no longer going to yell at you for your truth. I'm going to put so much trust in the universe. I'm going to put so much surrender in the universe. And I'm going to feel the deep pain, which the real vulnerable truth is my dad left me and I have a deep fear of abandonment. And so I'm trying to stop it from ever happening again by burning your witch. By burning your truth. What happens when you do that, and I will say this is very high level shit. It's painful shit. And I know you can do it. You're more than capable. More than. When you actually self-reflect and see why you're getting triggered and you take ownership, no matter how badly you want it to be the other person's witch, is the moment you heal your deepest trauma. It's the moment you alchemize the wound. It's the moment you realign with truth, and truth reconnects you to your deepest power. It doesn't matter if that boyfriend then goes and does whatever he wants, because that was attracted from an old version of you. Now that you're connected to truth and you refuse to ever control another person in that way, let's say, whatever happens in that relationship, it could get a million times better because now your boyfriend feels free and empowered. And where else is he going to find a girlfriend who lets him be that free? He probably attracted you for a reason, so it's healing for him too. So either that relationship gets better and better, or it ends, which is fine because we have to surrender relationships sometimes. And a really aligned, trustworthy one comes in because you're anchored to truth and you are refusing to burn the other person's witch. And you're refusing to burn your own witch, your own truth, by avoiding it. You're feeling it, you're holding it, you're alchemizing. And I'm bringing this up because Lilith in Scorpio is squaring Pluto in Aquarius. This is highly transformational, highly alchemical energy, and it's wanting you to own your truth even if you're misunderstood. It's wanting you to own your truth so fully that you can speak it, express it, and not need to over-explain yourself. You hold your truth and you stay silent and you wait to see who meets you. There's an opportunity at this full moon to heal deep wounds around feeling like you don't belong through radically owning your truth. Radically owning what feels right, even if it burns a lot of bridges, even if it ensues chaos. You hold it. This is giving you the long-term power to hold it till you make it to the other side. So, that is this full moon in Libra. I have a special gift for you guys. I have ChatGPT prompts specifically made for you. So you just have to know your rising sign. And you get to copy and paste the ChatGPT prompt, put in your rising sign because it's going to dictate to ChatGPT like where these planets are impacting your chart. And if you don't know your rising sign, just take that part out of the prompt and just give it all the aspects I put in there. And it's going to give you your specific horoscope for this full moon so that you can gain the most empowerment out of it. And if you want that, just go down to the show notes below and it's in the, I put a little link there for you to enter to get the prompt. If you would like some support, I do one-on-one coaching. And if you'd like to do one-on-one coaching, the prerequisite is a birth chart. And then if you want a one-on-one coach after you get the birth chart, you get to sign up for one-on-one coaching, or you get to apply for one-on-one coaching. The birth chart gives me an idea of whether we're a good fit. Our charts collide in a good way. And then the application helps me see if you're an even more good fit and if you're ready. And those two links are down below to either apply if you've gotten a reading before or to book a reading with me. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. I love you so much. Make sure to subscribe, follow, leave a comment, leave a review. It really helps this show. And if you appreciate this show and want to support it, I would appreciate it. So have the best full moon. I love you, and I'll see you soon.